Hello and welcome to today's SGIA webinar, Hybrid Garment Printing, Combining the Advantages of Screen and Digital Inkjet. My name is Dan Marks. I'm SGIA's Director of Content Development, and I'll be your moderator for today's program. On behalf of SGIA, I'd like to welcome you and let you know our webinar system allows you to ask questions. So if you have questions at any time, even now, feel free to submit them using the box on your screen. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Vince Cahill. Vince is an industry veteran who has spent decades investigating new technologies and really helping both SGIA as an industry, as an association, and the industry as a whole understand the implications of those and really know what's coming around the corner. So, Vince, welcome.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome all who are online listening. We are going to be talking about hybrids, and our agenda for today, we are going to go through each of the devices, the major right now that feature hybrid solutions. But we're also going to contrast the hybrid solutions with systems that are totally digital. These systems appeared recently at ITMA in Barcelona in June of 2019, and also many of them also appeared at Printing United in Dallas in October. First of all, we're going to look at M&R. M&R, and who has been a real centerpiece of the screen printing industry, has also now come out with this hybrid system, the digital squeegee. And here we're looking at their DS2000. And it looks like essentially a screen printing operation, but in actuality, it is a system that passes through a digital printer. So you have, on the front end, you have the printing of white, which is done with screen printing, and then it processes through the digital squeegee, which puts down the four-color CMYK process. This system is also compatible with the M&R's Victory 1 automatic screen press. So this digital squeegee can and a little over a half inch, full size. It features the Fujifilm Dynamic Starfire piezo inkjet heads. These are very robust heads, so the inks that can be printed through them can also have a bit of viscosity, and they are very accurate, as well as being ones that don't clog up quite so easily. And you can have a maximum print resolution with them of 600 by 1200 DPI, which on a t-shirt basically looks photographic. If it were on a very flat surface, then we're looking for something above 1000 DPI. But on a t-shirt, this works perfectly well. And it also features some height adjustment in the digital squeegee from 3 to 15 millimeters. Having a somewhat higher throw distance, because some machines are down to as low as 1 millimeter of throw distance, there can be problems with lint accumulating on the nozzles. Now, on the bottom of this the screen, you see a photograph of a promotional T-shirt that was handed out that were printed, and essentially the background white printer is the same for all, but the image that appears is different because the color that is printed digitally and can change from one to another to another. So you can have variable images, variable data, but the white that is printed, of course, is screen printed. Now, on a machine like the one we're looking at here, you could have more than one screen that is printing. So you could actually have more than one background. And so you could then vary from one to another, which you would have to control with your software. But moving on to the next solution, we also have the M&R Digital Squeegee DS4000. And again, here you see the same underprint, the screen printed underbase, and then the colors that are printed on top, which you can change because you're dealing with variable data. And that is, of course, the big advantage of digital printing, but the big advantage of screen printing is that you have a sufficient deposit where you can cover a dark garment and cover it very effectively with an opaque white. Did not have the heavy hand that you could get with printing plastisol ink, for instance. This was a lighter hand, not quite as thick as plastisol ink printing. These were using an acrylate water-based type of system. So of course, whenever you're using water-based, you then need screens that are going to be able to resist being exposed to the water. So so you need a water-resistant screen when printing with this method using a water-based ink. So this particular machine, the 400, can, with underbase, printing an underbase, is rated at producing 400 shirts per hour. It's this one is also compatible with some of the other the automatic screen presses of M&R, including their Challenger 3 and the Gauntlet 3. This has a smaller print area than the DS2000. Here we're looking at 15 inches by 19 inches, which is the normal for most T-shirt printing, and you have a the print height of 3 to 10 millimeters, not quite as much as the DS2000, but still well within the range. It is also using 16 inkjet print heads, and again with the maximum resolution of 600 by 1200. So there are also ways that we will mention that sometimes what you can do, even with the fixed underbase, you can sometimes mask out certain features. here, when we're looking at this image, you see one image that has the M&R logo, but then the others, it's not there. Well, that can be masked out. And so that is something that this shows you. And now, one of the competitors, a very similar type of machine using different print heads. This is from MHM and Arioli, the Italian company. So Arioli was mostly the developer of the digital side of things, and MHM the screen printed side. So here you have the IQ digital from the joint efforts of MHM and Arioli. And here you can also see it online. I've given you a YouTube address that you can plug into, and after this presentation, you can watch this machine in operation. Now, this has 48 Ricoh Gen 4L print heads. These are, again, the Gen Ricohs are fully rolled up. And large area, a larger width area, you have as many as 64 heads, and for the largest area, you can have 80 print heads. The maximum print resolution, like the M&Rs, is 600 by 1200 dpi. And for the most part, this machine operates with the double CMYK, and it's in the heads are mirrored, which is typically used to eliminate certain types of banding and also compensate for any jet outs. Maximum production output here, however, especially if you're going with the 80 head machine, pushes you up to 1,080 prints per hour. Putting that many shirts on and off a machine, you would need multiple people doing that. Maximum print area, and this can be huge, so you might be using it not just for garments, but you may also be using it for small banners, is up to 24 by 47 inches. It has a pin lock screen holding system, which essentially, which I have seen in operation, which gives you a precision that is the equal of pin register, and so you're looking at between your white printer or any other printers that you have in line and the digital printer. And so here we see the two screen models are using pallets that as many as 14 pallets or 18 pallets. Now, MHM, and in combination with their Malaysian partner, CSC, also offers the Digital V Pro. And we'll also see a US company, Lawson Screen and Digital, that's offering a very similar system. This is using, this machine uses just two Epson micro piezo inkjet print heads. The inkjet colors are CMYK plus the screened white, and the maximum print area is, and this is in millimeters, which is fairly large. It can be over 30 inches maximum, but production speeds are about 200 pieces per hour. Obviously, two Epson print heads are not going to be the equal of 80 Ricoh Gen 4 heads, but the machine, the MHM calls it the MHM Digital V Pro. REI technology. And the inks are a very critical part of the success of this particular machine. Now, Lawson has essentially adapted to its rotary machines the Zeus 5. And Lawson it's essentially a very similar inkjet side of the machine. And Lawson offers this as both as a manual, as a semi-automatic, and as an automatic screen printing hybrid part of the operation. For the manual, it's using its HD Max manual screen carousel press. And again, these are aqueous white image underbase, plus the digital inks also coming from CSC. They use the Caldera RIP as well. And again, here you're looking at a maximum resolution of 720 by 1200. Again, in the ballpark of all of the other printers. And here we're looking at a print area of 18 by 18. And again, 200 garments per hour using this machine. ITMA was rock, and they had a number of different devices, which we outlined here. This again, very robust, again, Fujifilm, Dynamatic, Starfire, PIJ heads. The automatic screen part prints the white underbase, and then it produces, again, maximum resolution of 600 by 1200. And ROC claims that its devices can print about 450 of an A4 sized print per hour. And it uses a micropigmented ink for its CMYK. It has the four machines that I list here are the H8C 4XL, and you see the screen sizes on your screen. This is a 4-color printer. The next, the C42XL, is also 4-color, and the other two are a double 4-color, where they again are printing CMYK twice. Another producer is a Chinese company that has a machine that looks very similar to the others. They are also they are using 10 piezo printheads and printing CMYK inks. This again prints 400 pieces per hour that are essentially just under 11 and by 16.5 inches. And for larger prints, they're down to 280 prints per hour, with a maximum screen area of 16.5 by 27.6 inches. And again, this is a system that can be expanded from 6 pallets up to 20 pallets in an oval configuration. It also, though, has an option of 900 by 1200 DPI print resolution. And again, a throw distance of 3 to 15 millimeters. So again, in the higher throw distances, you may reduce resolution a bit, but what you're also doing is avoiding any contact with lint that might be on the garment. This also offers grayscale automatic cleaning system and a moisturizing to prevent of your print heads to prevent any jet outs. Now, a very simple system and OmniPrint. Now, what they do is take a standard carousel screen printing, manual screen printing press, and marry it to their automatic one palette digital printer. So you would first print your t-shirt with the white, and then you take the whole palette assembly and then place that onto the OmniPrint FreeJet and use that, and that's what you will then that will then print, and it will be in register because you're using the same detachable platen from the FreeJet that you would use if you're not using the screen print white underlay. You can also do have a flash cure unit in line, and there is a video online that you can see, which I have here posted, which shows you how the whole process operates. So it goes fairly smoothly. It was shown with a Vastex 1000 rotary type screen printing t-shirt printer. Aeun, out of Austria, offers a number of interesting solutions. They have machines that just do digital printing, inkjet printing, as well as this combination. This is their the Aeun KO Hybrid series, and here they have 4 versions that use, 2 of the versions use 8 Kyocera print heads. It can produce a very high resolution of 2400 DPI. It also prints in grayscale. And 2 units that have 12 Kyocera print heads that can essentially operate somewhat faster. But here you have a capacity to print a white highlighter, and also to print your colors. Each of the print heads has 2,558 nozzles. These are mainstays. These print heads are used by much of the automatic T-shirt printing industry. So companies like MS and also Reggiani use these particular print heads. Another option, again, is that's something that should be understood of all the other Fujifilm Starfires, is that these are heads that were designed also to be repairable, so that end users, rather than having to constantly replace heads, might just be able to take the head, take it apart, and essentially clean it and reassemble it, and it's back in working order. This is somewhat different from most of the print heads that are out there, but the Fujifilm Starfire does feature that repairability. This, you have a choice of 4 or 6 ink colors, inkjet colors, and also, as you can see, it looks very similar in oval shape to some of the other devices. One difference between this and the MHM unit is, with the MHM unit, if you were to for their the automatic hybrid that they have, you can't actually, if you tend to the machine, you're not caught or pinned in the machine. But there are all sorts of systems to make sure that you're going to be safe, and almost all of them for the automatic side of things have some sort of feature. But here you can see the output can run from 280 prints per hour to 350. Again, it's using Ricoh Gen 5 heads, 8 to 12, depending on the model, and it can print 400 pieces per hour. Or for high quality, it's where you're looking at the higher resolutions, they're saying 200 pieces per hour. So if you're going to the 600, 605 by 1200 DPI, there you're going to be looking at the output of about 200 pieces per hour. And it does have, which is something you would want to make sure that you have on almost all these machines, really, is you want to have print head capping and cleaning, so as to keep your machine running and running consistently day after day. Another machine is from Techint out of Italy. They offer 3 models of its Alpha Digital machines. Again, we're seeing Ricoh heads here. The SD, the R4 is using, and the R5 are using, well, the R4 is using the Gen 4 heads, 4 of them. The R5 is using Gen 5, as well as both in its SD 80 by 100 mode and as well as its SD 100 by 100. It has an automatic carousel printing press to supply the white. They're looking at figures of 60 to 120 pieces per hour, depending again on resolution. So if you go for the high 900 by 1200 resolution, you're looking at about 60 per hour. So this gives you an overall breakdown of printers we've been showing you. And you can take a screenshot of this. And this gives you a comparison depending on what it is that you're looking. We didn't include prices here, but this is your, you can open the door. If this, the particular printer will do the job for you, this is an entry that can help you. So you see the printheads that are being used, there's, we see some Epson printheads, but for most part what we're looking at are Starfire printheads and Ricoh Gen 4 and Gen 5 printheads, and a Kyocera printhead. There you are. Now, competition with these is all direct-to-garment inkjets. And I want to note here that Kornit had produced one of these digital inserts that could go into a rotary or oval screen print press called the Paradigm 2. Digitally printing white rather than going to printing it with screen inks. The advantage of the all direct-to-garment types of printers, the advantage of them is that they can change the underlay essentially with a simple instruction. So you can have a different image, one after another after another. So you can personalize very easily. The disadvantage that can exist is that, well, you have to make sure that you're having adequate opacity. Also, your machine has to be fast enough, which also usually means that it's going to have a lot of print heads and it's going to be that much more expensive. So there are pluses and minuses, and I think what we're going to see is more of a competition between the direct-to-garment 100% inkjet versus hybrids, and that's what we're now seeing. But some of the companies here that are doing 100% inkjet are also some of the companies that are supplying the hybrids. So here we see Aoun, we see CN Top, and Omniprint. So these are, certainly not to be discounted. These companies see that there is a place, there is application for both the all direct-to-garment inkjet as well as the hybrid jet. Another candidate that we will also be looking at is digital transfer printing. We're seeing more and more of that, and this is particularly the case when we begin to look at polyester or garments that have a lot of polyesters in them. So for printing on light garments, what we're seeing is sublimation transfers being used for that. Again, inkjet being one way in which those are printed, but they can also, actually, some of those can even be printed with screen, although because of screen's ability to lay down a lot of ink, this can be a limitation for screen when it comes to dye sublimation, because you can get too much ink down and there's a tendency then to get a double print. So I know on some screen printed transfers, you could really use the transfer twice and get two pretty decent images. So comparing hybrid versus all inkjet. Screen offers thicker deposition for the white, and it's also good for pre-coats, top coats, and also some spot colors that might not be available with your inkjet. Particularly some fluorescents are not available for some, but screen deposits can add a thick feel, so you get a heavier hand. So that can be a bit of the downside. Screened image is also usually set for the print run, unless you do some masking, as we saw with the M&R machine, where the logo for some of the images was masked. And you also then have the front end, the screen making, the time and expense that's involved in that. Variable images are possible if you're just printing on a light colored garment with your inkjet side of it, but the variable image you can have printed because of that inkjet side, but the base area is going to be the same, or the same with maybe some minor masking. Whereas the all inkjet, you have variable image for all colors, including white and other inkjet applied coatings and colors. You have minimal front time and expense. So you don't have that upfront constraint, which can be very time consuming and not quite so good for where you're looking at fast turnaround. Some applications, however, do require pre-coats, whereas for the most, with the underbase white with screen printing, usually obviate the need for a pre-coat. Inkjet systems are usually white plus CMYK, as we saw. Of CMYK plus light cyan and light magenta, and sometimes a gray or a light black also being incorporated, as well as some fluorescent colors. These things are coming for essentially for inkjet, and some of them are there already. So the conclusions. We're seeing, quite a few of the major equipment manufacturers, particularly garment printing manufacturers, have invested in hybrid screen and inkjet print solutions. And we're seeing some that are investing in both the hybrid and hybrid as well as inkjet. That gives flexibility, and depending on your particular needs. For hybrid direct to garment, the white, first of all, is the most well, it's the most expensive and the most problematic, while the 4-color and some 6-color can be printed with inkjet. New ink chemistry for hybrids is enabling printing on 100% polyester darks and lights with some of these new inks. Some of the inks from CSC were demonstrating that, as well as for cotton and cotton blends. Inkjet chemistry is improving, and it's also driving a lot of the performance. And also, ink chemistry on the white side is also helping. The hand of the screen-printed water-based whites is very light compared to, let's say, plastisol inks. Print temp this is one of the big things here, is the maintenance, the printhead capping and moisturizing, the recirculation of a lot of the printheads that is possible, and keeps the nozzles open, especially after extended periods. You know, if you're you have a vacation and you're away for a week or two, you know, you want to be able to come back and without much waste or extreme flushing, be able to keep your inkjet printheads operating. So these new systems are making some headway against the tendency of inkjet printheads to clog, with, again, recirculation, with having capping and having a moisturizing to keep the heads open. But the race is on between hybrid screen, inkjet solutions, and inkjet direct-to-garment. And we'll see that played out over the next few years. So I'm available for questions.
Okay. Vince, thank you for the presentation. First of all, for those of you with us, if you want to reach out to Vince, there is his email address right on the screen there. One question I had is, can you describe for us, Vince, the sort of the vertical markets or the applications that people are looking at for these types of systems, and where is the promise in using these types of hybrid systems?
The hybrids.
Yeah.
You mean the hybrids?
The hybrids.
Well, the hybrids are M&R at the giving away T-shirts that featured their machine. So what it showed is that this was you know, you could get 5 different images on the same shirt. So what you could do is, for events particularly, that market will be could be geared where you have your white underbase, but then, you know, you could have variations in the design. So let's say you're at a football game, and you could have both teams being printed essentially with the same white underbase, but with a different image that's popping out in front. There are also some formats that would lend themselves to very easy variation. You know, if you use a rectangular format or a few rectangular formats.
Sure.
Something that is simple as far as that. But those, a lot of, you know, especially like sports games, and a lot of shirts sell at sports, and there usually are 2 sides.
Sure, right.
So, so you might favor, in terms of your numbers, the home team. You might also feature particular players. So you could, with the same underbase and digital printing as in your hybrid, have a range of products that you've produced that, you know, about 200 each. screen printing everything, but in that case, it would be pretty much either all the same image or you would have multiple setups.
Mm-hmm.
Here you can have one setup and supply, well, just as M&R supplied 5 different designs for printing on the same machine at the same time. This was being demonstrated. So this is, not everybody wants to be wearing the same shirt. That's the other part of it. And when you look at promotional products, which is not a small market, we're looking at something close to $25 billion. And close to 40% of that market is garments and accessories. So, and that's just in the United States, where there's a market there. There's a market that can be satisfied. And hybrids do offer one solution. Now, on the other hand, you might also be looking, you might also want to just go in the digital route, but the all digital route. But I think it's, and maybe in the long term, that's where it will progress. But right now, the advantages of screen printing combined with the advantages of inkjet are possible. Now, the other thing is that this is not just, hybrids are being created not just for screen printing, but also for other modes of printing as well. We see with flexography, a combination of flex and inkjet. We're going to see that in other areas as well, where, because there are advantages that analog methods can bring, particularly in terms of deposition and also in terms of production speeds. So, so once you have paid the upfront prices for the plates or the screens, once you have done that, and if you're going to do it for any length of job, that does provide you with an advantage, as long as, in the case of the hybrids we've been looking at, the underbase is going to be the same, or with masking, the same underbase will be usable for the print run.
Okay. All right. Well, Vince, thank you so much for the presentation today. And for those of you who are with us, thanks for being here. And we hope you found the presentation to be informative. On behalf of SGI, I'd like to urge you to go to sgia.org and check out our full listing of upcoming webinars, other events, conferences, the Printing United coming up in the fall. There's much on offer at SGIA, and we hope you'll check those things out. So with that, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you online again soon. Bye-bye.